Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. I'm Annette Richmond. This is the Smarter Career and Business Move Show. And I'm so excited to have Michelle with me today. Michelle, I met you about a year ago, I think, on TikTok
Oh,
of all places. I've met so many interesting people there, and I love your style. Um, and I'm so excited to have you here for a sort of one-on-one conversation with me. So, for people who do not know you, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
yeah, I'm excited to be here. I love that we met on TikTok actually. It's there, like you said, there's just been some amazing people that I've really met on that platform that you wouldn't have really come across on any other platform. But yes, my name is Michelle DeNio. I am a business coach and strategist with DeNio Consulting. I work primarily with solopreneurs, small business owners to help them create strategic growth plans based on data, not fluff. And a lot of people call me the no nonsense or no BS biz coach. So, I'm here just really truly to help people take their passion, turn it into a dream, but in a way that's profitable and one that doesn't just, that still allows them to have a life too. I feel very, very strongly that life is meant to be lived and loved, and our businesses just get to support that, not consume that.
Well, I love that, and we were chatting a little bit about that before because I love that how you call yourself the no nonsense or no BS. I used to have that on my LinkedIn profile for a while. My headline, no BS, no BS zone, and
Mhm.
I find that refreshing. I prefer the people that I work with to be like that. I'm like that myself, which means that I'm not for everyone.
Mhm.
But tell me how you kind of got that moniker and adopted that title as because that's your first thing on your LinkedIn headline is no nonsense.
No nonsense. Yeah, it just kind of, I don't know. I guess I kind of just adopted it because in almost every review or client that I worked with, and if you go back and read some of my testimonials and recommendations, um, it's in almost every single one. You know, Michelle's going to tell it like it is. She doesn't add any fluff. There's no nonsense. If you want somebody that's going to give it to you straight, and the reality is I'm just not a terribly creative person. I don't have, I mean, creative, yes, but like I don't really resonate a lot with that, a lot of some of this bro marketing or very creative, fluffy marketing that I see out there. And so
Mhm.
I just, it is who I am. I'm based on my background's in operations and accounting. So the data tells you it either works or it doesn't. And that's just kind of how that all played it. I guess it just kind of evolved from there.
Well, again, I love that and I appreciate it. And we were also talking a bit before we went live, and I told you I was going to, ask you about this
Mhm.
because things in business have changed so much. I know my business started off and it was kind of here and it was here and it was pretty steady. Every few years I'd make a leap and then it would be steady. And then, of course, 2020 hit, business was down, then business is up, then business is down. And, I talked to a lot of colleagues, business owners that I know who are experiencing the same thing. And so, since you are all about the data, I'd like you to, if you can share a little bit about, your thoughts on why this is going on and what the future, may hold.
Yeah, 2023, I think, has definitely proven itself to be a bit of, I don't want to say a challenge or a struggle because I don't want to really make it negative, but I think
Mhm.
it's just been very different from 2020, 21, and 22. And really, but I think what's happening is that 2020, 21, and 22 were very overinflated. There was an influx of people sitting at their computers. There was an influx of people starting businesses. We had nothing else to do. So work was all we could do, right? Like everybody jumped online. Everybody was on social media because there literally was nothing else to do. Look at how TikTok blew up, right? Because
Mhm.
all the celebrities were locked in their homes. And so there was just a lot more going on, a lot more attention. And so there was a completely different, just it just was completely different in the business world. And also too, not just in the online space. I mean, even my husband's local company here, there was supply chain issues. They were the only one in town that had stuff, so they could inflate their prices to be whatever. And the government was handing out money. and to businesses, to individuals. And so there just was a lot more freedom. We had a lot more financial freedom. We had a lot more time. We had a lot more ability to be creative and test things and try things. And there also was a whole new audience of people. And so they were eager and they were excited and they were learning. And there was just all of this excitement kind of in the online space and in the business world. And I think it kind of overinflated everybody's numbers and what business expectation was, especially for those that came into the world in 2020, 21, or 22. 2023 came in and nothing works the same, but you have to remember people are now going back on vacations. Kids are back in school. Life is back to being busy. There's after all these activities, we're doing all of these commitments again that we didn't have for all of these years to an extent. The government checks dried up. That money's probably been spent. And so now it's like, well, holy crap, what's 2003 look like? But if you compare 2023 to 2019, I would be willing to bet that most everybody is seeing an increase. But from 2022 to 2023, there's a lot of people seeing a decrease. So I just think if you eliminate those 3 years and go back to where we left off in 2019, 2023 is still in that upwards trajectory. It's just we kind of had this like bubble in the middle of it that is kind of that just gave us some overinflated. It was just overinflated.
Yeah, it's interesting because you talk about TikTok blowing up, and although I've been on TikTok for a while, I didn't start really engaging there until about a year ago, I think. But Clubhouse was one of those things that was really, that was the time for Clubhouse and Peloton and those companies, although I had my Peloton before that. But Clubhouse was very, very big. And now, I used to be on there all the time, listening, chatting with people. And now I haven't been on there in months. And so, there has been a shift. And I do understand what you're saying about the idea that, we were working all the time, partly because we didn't have anything else to do. And I would venture that we were also trying new things. I started my podcast in 2020 because I had no business. Then in 2021, things were slow. I was doing the podcast and I thought, let me add LinkedIn Lives to this. And for me, right now, in the past few months, I've been evaluating kind of what am I doing? What do I need to do? What things can I eliminate because I am busier with actual work? So I'd like your thoughts really quickly on that. And then I have a bunch of other stuff to ask you while I have you here.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that there's right now is a great time for reflection. I think we kind of were doing all the things. I know myself, I was doing all of the things too on all the social medias, the podcasts, everything. And I also think you're seeing a burnout from that because there was so many people that were doing all of the things. And so I know myself, like I'm not nearly as active on LinkedIn or any of the social channels that I was when the past 3 years. And I'm kind of burnt out by it, but I'm also busy doing other things. And I'm not just spending all my time in the scroll. And so I do think that there is a really powerful there's just a lot of power in taking that time to reflect and really look at like, okay, what do I want to continue moving forward with? And what's really working?
Well, I want to thank you for that. And it kind of reassures me that what I'm thinking is kind of on track. And I just want to mention, because I've seen reactions in the audience, so I know people are out there. If you have comments, if you have questions, please put them in the comments and we will see them here in the studio. So please do send them along and let us know where you're joined from. Because again, I can see people out there. I just can't see them. So, let's start with the mistakes that business owners are making now. If you can give me maybe 3 that you think that you see with the clients that you work with, they come to you and they're having, whatever issues they are, the mistakes that they're making. Like I know for me, one of my mistakes is trying to be everywhere. But what are some of the things that you see that are kind of hampering people, business owners, service providers, etc.?
Yeah. One of the biggest mistakes I see is that everybody is in this forward motion, but they're never actually taking the time to evaluate what's
Mhm.
actually happening and what's working and what's not working, right? We're just constantly moving forward, trying new things, trying new things, trying new things. And we're in this constant state of creation because creation is fun. Creation keeps us excited. We always have new ideas. And we think anytime we think business is slow, we think, okay, I need to create something new, right? But the reality is if you didn't sell your last offer, a new offer isn't necessarily going to sell either, right? Like just because one offer isn't selling doesn't mean you need a whole new offer. It means you need to really look at why isn't it selling. Now,
Mhm.
I'm not saying, I do see this. I had one client who she had an offer that really just wasn't converting. Myself too. I have one offer that's not really converting well. And so I had to think about that. Like, how am I going to keep if it's not converting, why am I continuing to put time into this? What is it about this that's not converting? And
Mhm.
so if you don't take the time to really look at that and really understand why it's not converting, sometimes it's simply just a positioning issue, right? Like you might
Mhm.
just need to change the way you're talking about it. Maybe your clientele or your audience just doesn't really understand it. Maybe they don't even know it exists, right? To an extent. So I think being in creation mode in this constant state of trying to create something new all the time is
Mhm.
a massive mistake because there's a lot of data that's going to tell you whether or not that's necessary. The other one, yes, definitely trying to be all the places and doing all of the things. And I think we're all guilty of this because we have that FOMO, right? That fear of missing out. Like, oh my gosh, this person said they're getting all this business from LinkedIn, but I prefer to be on Instagram. But then, myself too,
Mhm.
I was on LinkedIn and I'm in this other group now that I joined this group coaching kind of networking group thing.
Mhm.
And, they do everything on Instagram. So I'm like, man, am I missing the boat? Like, do I need to get back on Instagram? So now I'm kind of back on Instagram. Like, where am I going with this? And what do I want to do? And so it's really, same with TikTok. I go all in with TikTok and then I burn out and then I run out of content. So it's just trying to figure out. But I think too, it's number one is like, where can you stay the most consistent with what you're showing up doing, right?
Mhm.
Like, because there is an audience on every single platform. And I don't care if TikTok's got, 100 million and Facebook's got 2.1 billion or whatever it is,
Mhm.
you're not going to do business with 100 million people. So if
Mhm.
your clientele is sitting on TikTok, just go all in on TikTok. There's enough clients there to make you that much money and really get good at it and then
Mhm.
add on something new. So that's the other one. And I think really too, the biggest trend I'm seeing right now is everybody's not having fun. Nobody is having fun. They're trying so hard to play by all the rules of every guru and this and that. And I had this client with, this conversation with a client yesterday, and I said, what happened? Where's the fun? Where's you? There's nothing new in any of your content. I kind of fell like I just kind of felt guilty to this too. And actually, earlier this year, I let my operations team go. And I did that because I felt like I needed to reconnect back to my business. I felt like I was outsourcing so much of it that I was so disconnected. I really didn't even know
Mhm.
what was being put out there, and it wasn't fun anymore. We were just going through the motions, doing the things, creating the content on this hamster wheel, and it was not fun. It was
Mhm.
not fun anymore. And so bringing back and just kind of understanding that there's best practices, but there are no rules in business.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
there are things that you can do that are proven to work, but there's a guru out there that can prove everything works, right? Like
Mhm.
you can find somebody that can prove that it works. So find what is going to make you enjoy it, because when you're having fun, you said to me out backstage, Michelle, there's a different level of confidence in you right now. It's just you're showing up differently, right? Yeah, because I'm just being me. This is who I am. And I kind
Mhm.
of decided to throw the rules out the window.
Well, I love that, and I feel that I've mostly been like that, but I'm trying to be even more like that myself because it's so much easier. I like to be funny. I like to talk about my dogs. I like to do things, and I actually had a friend of mine because I would put videos of me cooking or the ice cream maker going or something on or pizza on LinkedIn, and they go, I don't know about that. And I thought, oh, maybe. And then I thought, well, you know what? That's really who I am. And if me posting, a picture of a pizza I just baked is going to make somebody not hire me, well, then I don't know. I guess I'm probably not for them anyway. And so I'm trying to relax back into that. And you've just made me think of so many things as you're talking. And one of the things, since we're talking about like kind of being us and being ourselves, there are a lot of, various LinkedIn or whatever gurus who are constantly preaching to people that you must be vulnerable. You must be vulnerable. You must share everything. And, I learned something on Clubhouse. I'm so embarrassed. I never wrote down who said it. Um, the idea that we have content that is kind of professional and personal and private. And private being like if I was having a divorce, if I was talking about that on LinkedIn. And I know people who talk about, things like that, pictures, they're in the hospital and everything. And nothing wrong with that. But what concerns me is sometimes people coaching their clients to be more like that. So, and doing things that they're not comfortable with. So what's your take and advice on that? Because we've been kind of talking around that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it really is very personal, and I think it really depends on is it something your audience needs? I think if your audience is going to create a deeper connection with you because your ideal client is also in a similar situation like that, or they can relate to that, they can resonate with that, then I think there is a side of sharing some levels of vulnerability and sharing those private moments. But I also don't think you have to, right? Like
Mhm.
we get to show and connect with people however we want. I mean, in 3 years, well, 2.5, 2 years, a good solid 2 years, I was a nanny, full time. Alongside my business, and nobody knew about it. Like I never shared about it, very rarely, and I remember the day I shared about it and they were like, "Oh my God, I had no idea." I'm like, exactly, because I really didn't want you to know because it didn't matter. Right. But
Mhm.
now I talk about it because I think it's an important aspect to the growth of my business, that I did have another job on the side while I was growing my business, and that it's okay to do these things. Right. Like
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
didn't share because all the gurus said that made me look unsuccessful. I now know that no, that made me exactly why that was
Mhm.
exactly why I
Mhm.
was successful, right? Because I had that. So I think again, if there's things that you can share, I had this conversation with a client yesterday too. She's kind of going through some stuff, and I said it's completely up to you. But your audience would likely resonate with it because your ideal client is also going through these things, right? And here are the ways you're coping with them. Here is how you're getting through it. And so if you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about it, I would. But if
Mhm.
you don't have to either,
Mhm.
right? There
Mhm.
are other things you can share that your audience is going to connect with you on, and they do not need to know all of your vulnerabilities. And the other thing too, I think, with the whole vulnerability thing is like, not everybody has a rags to riches story. And when people are preaching this vulnerability, like, what if we didn't grow up in a vehicle? And, and I'm not saying like, I'm
Mhm.
really not
Mhm.
trying to be negative about it, but like, I had a good childhood. I had a great job. We moved to Florida, right? Like, I don't have a rags to riches business story. I have my story, and I
Mhm.
have
Mhm.
my hardships, and I have the things that I went through that got me where I am today. But I think sometimes that's why people get really stuck in that, is like, what do I have to share? Do I have to share some deep, dark trauma? Like, not everybody wants to do that, and not everybody has it, and that's okay too.
No, I love that. And one thing that I always remember, and I mention to people when I'm talking about this, is that even someone who is sharing supposedly the deepest, darkest pain or secrets or whatever, they're still only sharing what they want you to know. So it's
Mhm.
not like they're, if they don't want to do it, but they're sharing it anyway. So before we move on, I just want to say hello to Seminita, Semina, I'm sorry, I'm probably pronouncing your name correctly, who was saying great, is probably showing some of those hearts. And also, my buddy Eustacia, who said exactly have fun with what you do. And I just want to mention to her that we are not seeing your photo in the studio, so you'll probably have to set your LinkedIn profile headshot to be seen by everyone because you're not showing up on third party. And because I know her personally, I just want to mention that to her. So now that we've talked about mistakes and things that are doing wrong, what are some things that people should be doing? Give me a few and of things that people, listening should start doing.
I think one of the things that everybody really should be doing is really taking the time every month to do some level of reflection. Just, it doesn't have to be a long, I've got questions. I'm happy to share them. It's, I'm not trying to sell. I know you mentioned that. I was like, wait. I didn't mean to say that.
No, that's fine.
It's free. It's free. Yeah, it's free. But questions that just really help you to see what is really working and what is not working. For example, like, how many leads do you have in your pipeline? Where did they come from? How are they finding you? Because what I find too, a lot of times is people are spending time on things and it's not at all how people are finding them. I had a client who was spending all of her time on Instagram. All of her leads were coming from Facebook. Okay, well, if everything's coming from Facebook and you're putting all your time and effort into Instagram, why not just shift some of your energy? Let's figure out how we can double down a little bit on this, because that's where people are finding you, right? Or podcasting, whatever it looks like. So definitely take some time to do some reflection and really look at and see what's going on with your business and understanding your numbers. And I know data and numbers, and again, it's the boring stuff and people don't love it. But it's really, truly, it's so powerful when you can see like, oh my gosh, this affiliate is bringing in 80% of my revenue. What can I do for them? Can I give them an extra bonus to bring in even more? Right. And then next thing you know, you've hit your revenue goals in half the year because of that. So there is a lot of fun in it. It's just taking the time to do it. And I think a lot of people don't, because they're busy. They never take the time to set up a CEO day. And you are your best client. You are your most important client, and you need to be spending time with yourself and your business if you want it to continue to grow. That's number one. Number two, I don't think you could ever really stop or build enough relationships. I know there's a lot of people that really believe in attraction marketing and content marketing and all of that. It all still falls on relationships, having conversations, getting to know people. Stop relying so heavily on your content to do all the work for you. Get out from behind your keyboard and have a quick conversation with people. You never know where it's going to turn. You can't build and maintain relationships. I had somebody show up yesterday to the 100 Coffee Chats Club that I spoke with at least 3 years ago. I haven't really talked to her since, but she's stayed in my world. We've commented on each other's content. Those relationships, you just never know when somebody's business is going to change or when their situation is going to change. You want to be top of mind, stay top of mind. I see all the time where people are really engaged with people when they're working with you, when they're in your world, when they're a client, when they're referring. And then the second maybe things don't, they stop talking to you. They stop engaging on your content. They stop having conversations with you. To me, that's why? You've already had an existing relationship. Unless it was a negative ending, maintain those relationships.
Yeah, I love that. And I would ask you to talk. You have a little group and it's all about coffee chats, right? That you advise people to do. What is it? 15-minute chats, a certain number of weeks, like that?
Yeah. It's called the 100 Coffee Chats Club. And it stemmed from a challenge I put out during COVID with my clients to have at least 100 coffee chats a year. So it's 2 a week, really. I mean, if you take time off, it's maybe 3 a week. That's not a lot to have those conversations. And I would say 80 to 90% of my business all comes from coffee chats. So again, it's not for everybody. I know there's a lot of introverted people that peopling is really exhausting, but it's just a simple get to know you. Like, tell me about your business. Tell me who you are. Tell me how I can refer you, because you don't get all of that in content. You really don't get all of that in content. You might know somebody's, even in my introduction today, I said I work with solopreneurs and service-based business owners. What the hell does that mean? But if you had a conversation with me on a coffee chat, I'm going to be able to explain it, right? It's just, it's so generic.
Uh, well, I'm as I'm looking off to the side, I'm looking at LinkedIn, and I can see all the hearts come fluttering up as you're speaking. So again, people aren't always commenting, but I see a lot of interaction.
Yeah.
And Eustacia says, "Very true, Michelle. Building relationships is the key." And I know that over the summer, I went into the city, but I'm 60 minutes by train from Midtown, so it's not really a big deal for me to go in there. But it's just something like, you got to get out, get on the train, make up, and all that. And I met a bunch of like my LinkedIn friends who I had been engaging with. I chatted on Zoom with them, but I never met them in real life, in person, and how it elevated the relationships that were already
Mhm.
established and the big hugs that from people. And
Mhm.
I was talking to one of them the other day who is my friend, but I also hired her and I worked with her. And she said, it's great. We knew each other on LinkedIn, but then, when we met in person, it kind of changed
Mhm.
our relationship. And so I love that. So we are getting like close to the end here. And
Oh,
I
yeah,
want to, because we do it for 30 minutes, goes by really fast.
it
And
does.
what is, one thing that anyone who is listening now on the replay, on the podcast, that I can do for 2024 that could push my business forward?
Without a doubt, reflection. Take the time to reflect and evaluate on what worked, what didn't work, what you loved, and what you didn't love in 2023, and be brutally honest with yourself. You're only talking to yourself, so why lie, right? If
Mhm.
you had an offer that did not convert, be honest about it. It didn't convert. Why? Did you not promote it enough? Did you not share it enough? Is it not what your audience is looking for? Be very, very honest, because that is what's going to actually give you the data to be able to create a strategic plan for 2024. The last thing you want to do is move straight into 2024 doing everything that you've done just to walk in and feel the same levels of frustration. We all have levels of frustration in our business.
Mhm.
Take the time to find out why they're happening and change it. Don't be afraid to change. I think people are afraid of the word change. I really have had to reframe it. It's evolution. Every year your business should be evolving. So instead of being afraid of change, embrace it and understand that evolution is key, and it's the key to growth.
So before I ask how people can find you, we're getting lots of light bulbs and hearts coming up. Um, One thing I just, if you can quickly share, how do we know when it's time to kind of let go and move on? Because I know that's a problem for me, and I'm sure it's a problem for others. And we were talking about something along those lines before we went live.
Yeah, I think depending on if it's an offer or something, it's usually like
Mhm.
at least 90 days, 90 to 120 days of really actively promoting it and really truly looking at it. But you can't make change and you can't decide to move on until you have truly the data to support that says this is not working. Do not make assumptions, right? Like, don't make the assumption like, oh, I put this out there, nobody saw it. I had one offer that was not converting, and I finally asked a bunch of people, because I had a lot of people come as a guest to the coffee club. And I finally asked them, like, what is wrong? Like, everybody says they love this. I cannot figure out what is happening. Why is this not working? It was just timing. There's so many other things that are happening at that same time. So
Mhm.
I can then choose to change it, stick with it. You know what I mean? Like, that
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
accurate data. So I think really until you make the change, but you've got to actually take the time to figure out what is it exactly that's not working.
So it could be just a matter of making a tweak
It could be
and
a
not
tweak. Yeah, exactly.
and not
Simple.
necessarily a full-on change. So, I'd like to just, let people know where they can find you. Are you open to connecting with them on LinkedIn? Where can they find you to learn from you
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
work
On
with you?
LinkedIn. Yeah, on LinkedIn or my podcast, The Real Truth About Business is my podcast. I just relaunched that. So if you're looking for a little bit of no nonsense, just straight truth about business, that's what the podcast is for. That it's a weekly show, LinkedIn, and I am back on the Instagram chain. So if my Instagram is just my name as well. So basically, anywhere you search my name, you can find me on all the platforms, and I may not hang out on all of them regularly, but I do check them all regularly.
Well, I thank you so much for being here today. I know that I learned, and I know other people learned as well, and more will when they're listening to the replay or listening on the podcast. So thank you again so much. Everyone else, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next week.
Thank you. Take care, guys.